Hello VC, it's Pete, the retro hi-fi gnome, coming at you with another Thursday's Thrifters haul. This time around we got a big mix of rock, electronica, psych, synth-pop, pop rock, folk, country, funk and soul, ragtime, disco, jazz, soundtracks, classical, comedy, and one really big major score for myself and just about anybody else who'd come across this album. I'm going to hold that one right till the end of the show, so you have to watch till the end. Stay tuned and watch what's coming up next. Hello VC, it's Peter, the retro hi-fi gnome, coming at you with another Thursday's Thrifters crawl. I got a rather large amount of albums this time around, so I'm going to try to go through them fairly quickly. I think most of them are going to be rather common albums for most people. First off, I picked up a copy of Aerosmith's Rockin' a Hard Place. Next up came a band called Thin Lizzy. I believe it's called Thunder and Lightning. I wasn't actually sure of the name of that one. This was followed by a self-titled album by Asia. And then a couple of Tangerine Dream albums. First up there was Cyclone. And Tangerine Dream's Tanagram album. The shop actually had a whole pile of Tangerine Dream albums, but all the other ones were not acceptable. They wouldn't convert to anything that would be actually playable. That was followed by what I think is a Psych album, at least according to Discogs. It's called Les Crane Desiderata. I hope that actually shows up. I think the lights may be blowing out the album cover completely. And unfortunately, the poster it says is inside isn't. So that's a bit of a disappointment. The album itself looks to be in good shape. And then we move into what is called synth-pop, with an album by Men Without Hats called Pop Grows the World. And a supergroup album with a whole pile of well-known bands like the Jays Gould Band, Wham, Culture Club, Kinks, Styx, REO Speedwagon, Journey, Men at Work, Pointer Sisters, Hollow Notes, Duran Duran, the Thompson Twins, Toto, Steve Miller Band, Stray Cats, and Loverboy are all on this album, and it itself looked to be in pretty good shape. I don't normally collect these kind of albums, but hey, it looked good. And then we moved into the folk category. The Mamas and Papas 16 are their greatest hits. I recognize a few of them, like California Dreaming, Dancing in the Streets, We'll Go Where You Want to Go, My Girl, Dream a Little Dream of Me, and Monday Monday are all on this album. And one I'm not actually sure of, it was labeled as a pop rock album. It's Art Garfunkel's Scissor Cut. I think the lights are blowing it out again. Too bad. We have to move them, I think. Then we moved on to more folk by Jim Crochet. I believe this is a rather common album to find, called Photographs and Memories, his greatest hits. And then we move on. It was actually a disappointment to me, because when I initially saw the album, I thought it was by Lamb 5, which is a very good band, and I would be looking forward to listening to it. It's actually a band called Lamb, not Lamb 5, and it's their third album. It's a world folky album with a definite religious twist to it. And then we move into a bit of folk country with a Gordon Lightfoot Fantastic Volume 1. It's got quite a few of his well-known hits on it, like Black Day in July, Did She Mention My Name, Ribbons of Darkness. And the next album I think is country. Again, I'm not too sure. It's England Dan and John Ford Coley. Excuse me. Nights Are Forever. Like I said, I have a hard time passing up any albums that look to be in good shape. Okay, that one then was, that was bad news. My laptop died. Wonderful. That was then followed by a funk soul album by the Plotters' Greatest Hits. It's got The Great Pretender, 16 Tons, Harbor Lights, My Prayer, Smoke It's in Your Eyes, Remember When, Twilight Time, a few other songs. I've heard most of them, so it must be something if I recognize them. Then I picked up an album by Dawn featuring Tony Orlando. It's labeled as a ragtime disco type album. I'm not actually sure, I haven't heard this one. Next to it, I picked up a Tony Orlando and Dawn, Tony Orlando and Dawn collection album. It's got a lot of their better known hits like Knock 3 Times, Candida, Tie a Yellow Ribbon, many others like that on the disc. And now we move into genre and it's more at home. I picked up something that's more to my normal collection. It's called The Golden Trumpet Hits by Heinz Schattner on trumpet. It's a German pressing, mono. I'm kind of hoping it turns out to be pretty good. Next we pass on to a Rodgers and Hammerstein album called The South Pacific. It's a show tune jazz album. And again the lights are blowing out. Which is followed by another Rodgers and Hammerstein album called The Sound of Music. And now we're straight into classical. This one's Ludwig van Beethoven Symphony No. 9 in D minor, Opus 125. It's on the Deutsche Grammophon label, a German pressing. And unfortunately it's in stereo. The next one is Brahms Symphony No. 2, A Tragic Overture. This one actually came in a bit of history. The sleeve itself is from an old store called Sound the Record Man, which was rather a famous store in Toronto back in the day. So I think I'm going to keep the sleeve more, maybe more than the record. And then now for some comedy albums. Yay, I always like comedy. I picked up the hits of a National Lampoon. And the pièce de résistance, I managed to get hold of a Rick Moranis album, You, Me, the Music and Me. Now this album, if you look it up on Discogs, its code number is IRS 82009. I got a real surprise when I looked it up to enter it into my database. I'm kind of really pleased with this one. Well, that was a rather large haul for me for this week's thrifting. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.